Hi, guys. Welcome back to another episode of the Chronic Chronicles. I'm your host, Alexi Halloran, and I'm excited. I'm excited to be here. We're going to do a solo episode today, and I haven't done a solo episode in, I don't know, a couple weeks. I've been doing a lot of interview episodes and I love them. I love doing interviews with people because I just love it. I want to create a community for me, for you, for all of us, for all of the chronically ill baddies. Ew. That was cringy that I just said that, but either way, that's fine. Yeah, so interview episodes are honestly like my favorite thing to do. I love not allowing, but I love bringing people on to the podcast that can talk about their chronic illness, give us a little bit of insight into their lives and what their symptoms are, what they do, how they're feeling with everything. Because I feel like the more that we talk about these things, the better it will be. People will feel less alone. Hopefully, we'll get more awareness on the topic. Getting more awareness on topics like this allows for more funding for research, which is really what we need, especially with like endometriosis. And I mean, in general, women's health, we need more research to be done. That's like one of the reasons that I love interview podcasts so much, but also I have like quite a few lined up in the future with some healthcare experts. I want to definitely do more of those because I want to talk to people who have education in those subjects to bring more resources to the community. And selfishly, like I want to learn as well. I have a lot of questions too. So be on the lookout for that stuff in the future. A lot of exciting things happening. Also, I'm recording this Saturday. What's the date today? August 17th. And like 2 days ago, I posted something on my story on Instagram, on the podcast Instagram. Also, if you don't follow that, please, please, please go follow the podcast Instagram because I post a lot of information on there and honestly, like reels. I update a lot of things on there. I talk a lot about like things that I'm going through, like endometriosis symptoms, resources, products that I'm using, stuff like that. Anyways, the Instagram is at Chronic Chronicles Pod. So a couple days ago, I posted the first, like drop that I'm doing an event. Well, I'm co-hosting this event with Taylor and Emma. They've both been on the podcast. Taylor's is at DISTAAYBLED, and Emma's is endometriosis M, so endometriosis EM. So yeah, they've both been on the podcast. They both have endometriosis, also more chronic conditions outside of endometriosis. They have a lot of other complex chronic illnesses as well. I really connected with them. I love them. They're great girls. They're also both very passionate about advocating for chronic illnesses and creating more awareness for that, fundraising, all of those things. So yeah, we are hosting an event in Portland, Oregon on September 14th. It's going to be in person. It's at Peninsula Park, Portland, Oregon, September 14th, 12 to 4 p.m. It's called Crafting Communities. There's going to be a lot more information coming out. Again, please follow my Instagram because that is where I'm going to be posting majority of stuff related to the event. Also, like in the coming weeks, I will talk more about it as well. Maybe people that don't have Instagram or something will still get the information. There is a link to an event. I'll link it in the show notes as well. So anyone in the Portland, Oregon area who's interested in coming, please RSVP. It's a free event. There's going to be giveaways, which I'm really excited to talk more about that. We have been working really hard on getting brands that we use on like an everyday basis to donate products for you guys in this event. We're going to have a lot of cool things happening. Also, like some small businesses are going to be attending, selling some products. So that way, like there will be, like some crafting events, some shopping. People can like bop around, look at some small businesses. So that way, also small businesses can get some traction. And I'm really big on supporting small businesses as well. My small business, Coastline Chic Designs, will also be there. All of my profits from the event in the day of the event will be donated to a nonprofit, Endo What. They do a lot of endometriosis research. I can't say all the details right now, but there are a lot more details coming. Very excited. We're going to have an ASL interpreter there. The park is completely accessible. There's handicap ramps, all of the things. Yeah, I'm just really excited to hopefully meet some of you. Okay, I went on a tangent. Oh my God, what was I talking about before that? I don't know. Oh yeah, the Instagram. Please follow the Instagram. You'll get more information there. So today's episode, I really just wanted to like hang out with you guys, talk a little bit more about some things. And so today's topic is going to be cycle tracking and cycle syncing, which can be very confusing. And I'm honestly, like, I've talked about this a little bit on the podcast before, but it is so frustrating to me that what your cycle is not really taught in sex ed in high school or middle school or whenever. I'm pretty sure that I had like a health education like sex ed class in high school as well, and they definitely didn't talk about like all the phases of your cycle. The only thing I really learned about was menstruation, like your actual bleeding period. I didn't learn that there were 4 different phases of a woman's cycle until I was in graduate school teaching physiology. I was like, oh, what am I teaching next week? And I looked at the rubric, and it's about the menstrual cycle, and it had 4 different cycles in it. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, I don't know what this stuff is. So then obviously I had to learn it to teach it. And that shocked me because I feel like we should be learning that stuff. We should be set up for success. We should know what is going on in our bodies so that way we can properly take care of our bodies. So before I go on a whole rampage about that, that is what we're talking about this week. I'm excited to talk about it. I am not going to lie, I'm not an expert in this stuff. It is also pretty hard for me to track my cycle. It's something that I've really working on, and I've been trying to cycle track, cycle sync, do things that are like better for my body depending on like what phase of my cycle I'm in. But it is really hard as somebody with endometriosis to do that. Also, I have an IUD. I have the Mirena. Most of the time I don't have a bleed. I have all the other symptoms. I have cramping, bloating, sore boobs, PMS, whatever, like all the things, but I don't normally have a physical bleed. Ironically, though, I think I'm on today's Saturday. I'm on day 8 or 9 of my period right now, I think. And I've been bleeding for the last 6. Not heavy bleeding. Some of the days were like some spotting, but enough for me to like be wearing a panty liner, which is weird. I had to go buy some because that's not typical for me. Apparently, my IUD, I'm only a year and a half, and it's a new one. I'm only a year and a half into this one. This is my 3rd IUD, and typically, like, I don't bleed. This is very rare. I don't like, for me, not for everybody, but for me, this is my 3rd IUD, and I don't normally bleed on them, and I've been bleeding for a week, so I don't really know what's going on. I've also had really bad cramping this cycle. Part of me is like, have I just not had a period for like 4 months? And this is like my actual period. I'm not sure. So anyways, all of that being said, it can be very hard to actually track and like match up your period when you have endometriosis and when you're on birth control. I do the best that I can. Also, I'm not an expert in this topic by any means, but I did do quite a bit of research, and I will be linking things in the show notes to, like to what I found. Some of this will be like my own personal experience, but I just wanted to preface everything with that. Okay, before we get into actually the bulk of the episode, I want to do my weekly report. So, I've been reading the Thorn of Glass series. I'm on book 3. I think like the episode that went out late last week, I think it went out on Friday, just started the Throne of Glass book 3. And I think I was only like 2 minutes in on that other episode. And now oh my gosh, look at my little cat. Okay, also, that is a clean litter box behind me, by the way. If anyone can see that. That's a new litter box. We haven't used it yet. So, but it's there. Hi, Bella. Say hi. Oh, she's so cute. Okay, my ADHD. Live, laugh, love. Okay, so Throne of Glass, book 3, last episode. I was only like 2 minutes in. I'm halfway through the book. Halfway through the book. It's It's only been like 2 days, guys. It's only been like 2 days. And I've just been listening away. I've been like catching up on stuff, cleaning around the apartment, and I've just been going ham on this book. I love it. It just got like really interesting. I don't want to do any spoilers, so I'm not going to say much more about the book, but I really like it. Sarah J. Maas, I love you. Thank you for being an author. Oh, I'm also rereading Atomic Habits. I read Atomic Habits. I read Atomic Habits, I think 2 years ago, like in my first, maybe 3 years ago, my first year of grad school. I read Atomic Habits because I was like, I need better habits. I won't lie to you. I read it and I was like, okay, this is going to change my life. And I wanted it to, and it didn't. And that's not the book's fault. That's my fault because I read it and I was like, oh my God, these are all really, really good tips. I need to like implement these things. And I did for a little bit. And then I just got overwhelmed with like life. I'm rereading Atomic Habits and I'm feeling inspired again. So maybe it'll actually stick this time. I don't know. I made an episode or I made a story post on Instagram last week, I think, talking about ADHD and how I feel like my ADHD has changed a little bit. I got diagnosed with ADHD when I was like 8 or 9 or 10 or something. I don't know, around that age. And it was essentially like, from what I remember, I got diagnosed because I would get done with my schoolwork very quickly. And then I would walk around the class and help people with their stuff. And it was distracting for other people. I like couldn't sit still. I was like bouncing all over the place. So then I went on Adderall, or no, sorry. I went on Ritalin. All I remember is I slept all the time. So it essentially made me like a zombie. So then we stopped that. I didn't really go on any other medications. From what I remember, my doctor was like, sometimes sports and routines help kids with ADHD. That's when I started cheerleading, and then my life just became cheerleading and gymnastics and that stuff. So that, like, especially in high school, cheerleading, I really do think helped me with my ADHD a lot. And then in college, things happened and I didn't do cheerleading anymore eventually. And my ADHD was kind of hard to maintain. And I think what I did, like remembering that doing extra things like extra practices in the morning, extra practices after school, like outside of my normal cheer practice, I tried to implement that with working with like jobs. And I would work a bunch of jobs, like a lot. I was nannying, I was waitressing, I was bartending, I worked at the hospital. I started a small business. Like I was doing all these things on top of taking full-time classes and trying to go to medical school, like get into medical school. So I was also doing like volunteer hours, shadowing, studying for the MCAT, like all this stuff. So I've always felt like I just couldn't chill out. Like I can't relax, I can't chill. I have to be doing things all of the time. AKA like now I also have a podcast, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Like I am an ambitious person, but at the same time, like I do think that has a lot to do with my ADHD. And recently, in the past like year, really, starting my big girl job, I still feel like that. Like I can't sit still and there's all these things that I want to do, but at the same time, I go to bed at night and I sleep through 2 hours of alarms in the morning and I can't wake up. And I go to bed and I'm like, okay, like I want to wake up in the morning and I want to go on like a little walk and enjoy my coffee and have time for myself in the morning before I go to work and I do all these things. Or I want to do a podcast in the morning, or I want to do a podcast after work, or I want to work on designs, like stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to bed at 8:30 p.m. or 9 p.m. I should be able to wake up at 6 a.m. That is more than enough sleep, but I can't. I genuinely cannot wake up. I get so upset with myself in the morning because I snooze alarms that have been going off since 5:45 and I don't actually see my alarm until 7:30, and then I'm like, well shit, I gotta go. So then it leaves me, I have like barely enough time to take a quick shower, put my hair up in a bun and leave. Like I don't wear makeup to work, I don't do my hair for work, and not that like you need to do that or anything like that, like whatever. But the fact is that I want to do those things and I can't, like I can't because I can't wake up. Pretty much all year I've just been pissed at myself because I'm like, you're lazy and you suck and you can't wake up and you make all these plans and you can't stick to them. So I've just been like really hard on myself. And part of me is like, well, really, like I saw this girl on TikTok talking about how her ADHD like doesn't allow her to do things. And I'm like, I always thought that my ADHD made me do too many things, and I think it does, but maybe it's changing. And I like, is that why I can't wake up in the morning? I just really don't know. It's essentially the last like 2 weeks I've been thinking a lot more about going back to the doctors and actually asking about medication because I do have ADHD. That is a diagnosis on my medical records. So I just, and my doctors have suggested going on medication before, but I'm not going to get like too far into that, but I have some like maybe need therapy with a medication. Like I'm scared of being on medication essentially. So I've always said no. I feel like it's gonna change my personality for some reason. And realistically speaking, like I don't think that's true, like logically, but for some reason my brain tells me that I shouldn't. So it's a scary thing for me. But recently I've definitely been thinking about trying it more just because like I feel like I can't do the things that I want to do. And I'm tired of being mad at myself about it. So maybe it's time to try. Anyways, again, sorry, I just got so off topic, but that has to do with rereading Atomic Habits. And I want to do all these things, but I'm almost like, I don't even want to like set goals for things because I know I won't, I know I can't do it. And I'm so sorry. Like that sounds so pessimistic. Like I'm a pretty optimistic person, but I'm just tired of like setting goals and then failing because I can't get up in the morning. Like, what the fuck? I can't wake up. I literally, my boyfriend leaves for work at 4:30 in the morning and I like wake up a little bit because I hear him. And then I'm like, Lexi, you should get up. And I don't. I just fall back asleep. Like, I can't get up. I don't know. I feel like people are going to listen to this and be like, maybe you are lazy, but maybe I am. I don't know. I don't know. Anyways, moving on. Eating. Eating. I've been eating. I've talked about in my recent episodes that I'm trying like low calorie, anti-inflammatory stuff. I've been eating buffalo chicken dip with cottage cheese. My whole life I hated cottage cheese because it was like chunky, but then somebody said put it in a blender. So I did that. So I've been eating buffalo chicken dip with blended cottage cheese and it's so good. I love it. And it's actually like the good culture, like protein cottage cheese. It's pretty good for you. It has a lot of protein in it and it's moderately low calorie. So I've been eating that as like snacks. And then also my dessert of the week are dates with peanut butter in them and then like cover. Okay. Okay. Sorry, my cat just got like wrapped up in my. Anyways, dates with peanut butter wrapped in or like dunked in dark chocolate with flaky salt on top. Those are my desserts for this week and I love those. Those are a staple in my diet. Playing. I've been playing with new foods and recipes. Trying to again like love sweets, sweet girl over here. So trying new like desserts and sweet treats that are kind of anti-inflammatory and kind of low cal. Upset and if I find any that are like super super good, I'll post them as well on the podcast Instagram. Obsessing, making lists. That's not new. I always make like 20, not okay, let's be real. I make like 2 or 3 lists a day. In the morning when I go to work, I'll make a list of things that I have to do. And normally I end up making like another 2 lists because I legitimately cannot get anything done if I can't like check off something. Like I need a reward, and my reward is checking it off on the list. So pretty sure that's another ADHD thing, but that's fine. I'm recommending a morning walk with coffee while it's still light out. And I just talked about how this is like really hard for me to do, but the mornings that I do it, which is typically on the weekends because I wake up later and then I can do it. But I would love to be able to do this like every day before work. And I'm not saying like a long walk. I'm saying like a 5 or 10 minute walk. Like make your coffee, 5 or 10 minute walk outside because it's still light out early in the morning right now, and it will be for probably another 2 months, and then it's going to start getting dark out in the morning. And I'm trying to like implement that habit now so that way like it sticks in the when it starts getting darker later fall and winter, and then I can transition to the gym in the morning. Yeah, I really love it. Like this morning, it's a Saturday, and I woke up at like 9 a.m. and literally drank a cup of water, glass of water, and then made my coffee. I'm still in my pajamas, okay? And I went outside for a quick 10-minute walk with my coffee, came back, took a shower, and started my day, and I loved it. So I really hope that I can do that for the rest of this week. We'll see what happens with it. But I do think that having some alone time in my head before I go to work will be really beneficial for my mindset for the day because, like I said earlier, I wake up with like 20 minutes and I rush out of the house and then I'm like barely awake when I'm getting to work. Like my eyes are still swollen from sleeping. So, yay. Okay, that is my weekly report. I am so sorry if you listen to this and you're like, damn, she just complained so much because that's really not what I was trying to do. I'm just struggling sometimes. Also, this period has been really rough, guys. Like, really, really rough. I had like legit rage the other day at work and not at anyone or anything like that, but it was just like every single thing, like everything was going wrong. And I felt like actual intense rage, which I don't feel normally. Like I get like angry or mad or upset or whatever, but no, like I felt rage, like real rage. And I'm like, oh my God, this period is destroying me. Like my hormones, I can't regulate them. I don't even feel like I felt that rage and I'm like, this is not me. I don't even feel like me. And there's nothing I could do about it. Yeah. So, anyways. Oh my God, wait. I didn't finish. Treating. Treating is the last one, y'all. So, to end the weekly report, the T treating myself to new underwear, new undies. I just again, like I'm on my period right now. Sorry. So I have been wearing like comfy underwear because the last fucking thing I want to do while I'm on my period is put on a freaking thong. Let me tell you that. Is that TMI? Like, whatever. I don't really care. But that's the last thing I want to do. So I just bought some comfy sleep undies from Period Aisle. Period Aisle has been around since 1993. 1993. That's older than me. They were the first period underwear. Let that sink in. 1993, first period underwear. They're safe, they're comfy, they're high quality. I normally don't have a bleeding period, like I said earlier, but I am right now. Period Aisle also sells everyday underwear as well. And I recently was, like putting underwear on, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't have that many. Normally, I like sleep. Obviously, I don't sleep in thongs, like that is uncomfortable. So I normally sleep in like full-butted underwear, typically like a boy short or like a brief. I just realized that I don't have that many pairs. And I I don't have that many pairs, and there's also only like two or three pairs that I like reach for. I'm like, oh, these are the ones that are like actually comfortable on my body. And then that prompted me to go through my underwear and be like, what underwear do I normally reach for? And throw away the ones that are uncomfortable to me because why the fuck am I keeping underwear in my underwear drawer that I literally will never wear because it's uncomfortable? That that is what I implore you to do today is to go through your underwear drawer and throw away the raggedy underwear that you've had for 5 years or the underwear that you quite literally do not wear because it's uncomfortable. Like the underwear, I'm talking the underwear that like you are completely out of clean clothes and you're like, fuck, I have to wear this like raggedy lacy thong today and it is so uncomfortable. And you would never wear it outside of that circumstance. Throw it away and go buy yourself some comfortable undies because you deserve that. Like that is a basic need, okay? Legitimately a basic need. Underwear that actually feel comfortable. Buy them. I'm not saying you have to buy period aisle underwear. I'm just saying go buy underwear that is actually comfortable to you. And if you would like to give period aisle a try, you should because they are comfortable. I got the everyday boxer and the everyday brief, and I'm really, really loving them. They're comfy. They don't have like super tight elastic bands that like dig into you because I had a couple pair like that from a different company and they were uncomfy as hell when I'm already like bloated and crampy. So not those. And if you want to give Period Isle a try, you can use code Chronic Chronicles for 15% off site wide. Look at them. I'll link them in the show notes. Just look. Okay. Buy yourself some underwear that fucking feel nice on your body. Okay. Love you. Let's get into the actual bulk of the episode. Cycle tracking. Cycle tracking and syncing can be a super, super valuable tool for understanding, the menstrual cycle and then trying to optimize your health through multiple things like diet, exercise, and self-care that you can specifically tailor to every phase of your cycle. There are 4 cycles. There's the menstrual cycle, the follicular phase, the ovulatory phase, and the luteal phase. This can be a little bit confusing because some of these happen at the same time. So the menstrual phase and the follicular phase are technically happening in tandem. The follicular phase is from days 1 through 13. Oh, let me backtrack. Your cycle is 28 days long, typically. Some people's are longer, some people's are shorter. It really depends. On average, they're 28 days long. The follicular phase is roughly, again, like I'm going to say roughly because, again, things change. Every body is different. So the follicular phase is roughly days 1 through 13. And at the same time, the menstrual phase is roughly days 1 through 7. Your menstrual phase is typically what people know about. That's what people are normally taught about. That's your period. What happens during the menstrual phase is the uterine lining, aka the endometrium, sheds, and this leads to menstruation, aka bleeding. During this, your estrogen and progesterone, which are the 2 main hormones in a woman's cycle, are at their lowest. This is typically when your energy levels are also at your lowest. So, one way that, like I taught my students was to remember that estrogen and progesterone low equals energy low. Okay. And typically, like your energy levels are this low because there's a really large decrease in your hormone level. Exercise. From what I found, it seems like because your energy levels are low, the best types of exercise to do during your menstrual cycle are focusing on like gentle activities like yoga, stretching, light walking, and honestly, sleeping. Rest is crucial, especially if you're feeling fatigued, especially if you're crampy and bloaty and you're feeling a lot of people like me, for example, when I'm on my period, I'm bloaty, crampy, nauseous, feel like I'm gonna puke. Sometimes I get really lightheaded. Rest is the most important thing. Don't beat yourself up if you're not like in the gym, because honestly, like you shouldn't be during your menstrual cycle. Like you quite literally do not have the hormone load to provide you the energy you need to be doing HIIT workouts. Okay. So just give yourself a break. Nutrition. Again, I am not an expert in these things. This is just stuff that I found through research, and everybody is entitled to their own opinion. So make sure you read through the links that I provided, but these are some things that I have found for people who eat everything. Okay. So foods to eat, iron-rich foods like spinach, kale, like leafy greens, lentils, red meat, tofu. And all of those things are going to help replenish iron that's lost during bleeding. Vitamin C rich foods, because iron absorption is better when it's paired with vitamin C. So oranges, bell peppers, strawberries, broccoli, and all of those things are supposed to help enhance iron absorption. So in a perfect world, you would be eating like red meat and broccoli, and like oranges and strawberries with like spinach and kale like in a salad, because if you're eating both of those things at the same time, you're increasing your iron absorption. Okay. Hydrating foods like cucumbers, watermelons, soups and broths to stay hydrated and try to reduce bloating. Anti-inflammatory foods like turmeric, ginger, fatty fish like salmon, and this is supposed to help reduce menstrual cramping. Foods to avoid, I mean, I think we all kind of know this one, but caffeine. So like coffee, tea, energy drinks for sure. These things can increase cramping and bloating. That's a hard one for me. I'm not gonna lie to you. I definitely still drink my coffee on my period because my energy is low as hell. So I feel like I need coffee. But in reality, drinking like an orange juice would probably be more beneficial for you. Avoiding salty foods and sugary foods. It's hard. It's hard. I did read that dark chocolate is still fine. So if you're like me and you want sweets like every single day, I try to go for like dark chocolate on my period. Follicular phase. So your follicular phase is days roughly 1 through 13. So typically when we talk about the follicular phase though, we are talking about the end of your actual period. So we're talking about like days 7 through 13. This is when your body starts preparing for ovulation as the FSH, so follicle stimulating hormone, thickens the growth of the follicles in your ovaries. This causes estrogen levels to rise, and your estrogen levels rising is actually what thickens your uterine lining. As estrogen levels rise, so they're going up, your energy is going up. Exercise, this is a good time to start engaging in a little bit higher intensity workouts like strength training, running, HIIT, because your energy levels and your endurance are starting to get higher. During your period, light walking, gentle yoga, sleeping, and then as your period ends and your follicular phase really starts to ramp up, you can start doing more like running and higher intensity workouts, walking, brisk walking. Foods to eat are things like complex carbohydrates, so quinoa, brown rice, whole grains, and these will help with sustained energy. So if you are doing running and like HIIT workouts, this will help you keep your energy high. Antioxidant rich foods like berries, citrus fruits, leafy greens, these are all supposed to help support your rising estrogen levels. Protein rich foods like eggs, chicken, legumes. These support follicle development. And then healthy fats. So avocado, olive oil, nuts, all of these things help support hormone production because we want to keep producing more estrogen levels as well, or higher estrogen levels. And then foods to avoid are like refined sugar, energy drinks. These typically will result in some sort of like blood sugar energy level crash. And processed foods. I mean, we should theoretically be avoiding processed foods in general because of hormone disruption, but especially during your follicular phase, because your follicular phase is when you are producing all of these hormones. And if you're eating a shit ton of processed foods during it, then it can disrupt your hormone balance, and which can lead into a rough ovulation. The next phase is your ovulatory phase. So this is roughly days 14 through 16. It's sad that it's so short because this is when you start feeling good. This is when you feel your best. Normally, a lot of people say that this is when they feel the prettiest. Suddenly, like everything starts matching up. Like you feel like your face symmetry is on point. You start noticing things that look good about you. Your body looks better. And you're looking in the mirror and you're like, you look good today. You look good. You look good, queen. What's happening during this is an egg is actually released from your ovary. Estrogen and testosterone levels really peak and LH surges. So normally this is when you feel your best and energy levels are at your highest. Your estrogen, testosterone levels peak, super, super high. Energy levels are super, super high. You feel great for like 3 days or 4, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. Yeah, being a woman is fun. You get a few days where you feel really, really good. Exercise for this is energy is really high. So this is a really, really good time for high intensity workouts and social activities like group classes. Go try something new that you want to do. You've been looking at doing a ceramics class, go do it. Meet some new friends. Plan your social activities during your ovulation. This is how, or like big projects that you need to get completed, you're on deadlines, put it during your ovulation because this is when you feel good, you feel confident, you feel smart, you feel ready to take on the world. Ovulation, do it then. Nutrition, foods to eat, anti-inflammatory foods again, so like salmon, walnuts, flax seeds, all of these things help support a healthy ovulation. Vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, these all aid in like estrogen metabolism. Zinc-rich foods like pumpkin seeds, chickpeas, shellfish, oysters. You guys, yeah. You guys know that like people say that oysters get you like hot and heavy. I think it's really only during your ovulation, but whatever. Zinc-rich foods support the immune system and can help balance your hormones as well. And then again, hydrating foods like watermelon, cucumber, leafy greens, water. These things help you stay hydrated during this like really, really high energy phase. Foods to avoid, excessive dairy. Everything's fine in moderation, but you don't want to be like eating a shit ton of dairy during this, and especially soy. Milk, cheese, yogurt, soy, these all can mimic estrogen in your body, and you have really high estrogen right now, so you don't need your body to be like mimicking estrogen. You know what I mean? Also avoid high sugar foods and alcohol. Cool. Mostly because like pretty much all the things to avoid, dairy, like excessive dairy, high sugar foods and alcohol, is because you're just not trying to like disrupt your hormone levels and increase inflammation. And these things like can, especially during this part of your phase when you are peak hormone level. Okay, and then your last phase is your luteal phase. So this is days roughly 17 to 28. So this is a long part of your cycle, my loves. And unfortunately, like the luteal phase does kind of suck. Most people talk about the luteal phase being like the worst part of your cycle because your energy levels are bad, 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 bad. So after ovulation, progesterone levels rise. And this really like the goal is preparing your body for a potential pregnancy. And if pregnancy doesn't occur, then your hormone levels just completely drop. And this leads to the start of menstruation. So really like the luteal phase is trying to prepare your body for pregnancy. And if you don't have a fertilized egg, it's like, oh shit, okay, we don't need these hormones, get them out, drop them off. And then you lead back to menstruation. So, exercise for this, you try to maybe gradually decrease intensity of your workouts as you come into your menstruation. Try to focus on like moderate exercise, like Pilates, swimming, cycling, although like all those things can be intense. So it's really based off of like your body and what you think is easy, moderate, and intense exercising. Nutrition. So foods to eat, magnesium-rich foods like dark chocolate galore. Eat the dark chocolate, nuts, seeds, leafy greens, all of these things hopefully will reduce PMS symptoms and like cramping and mood swings because your hormones at this point are just like not doing what they should be doing for you. And also increasing complex carbs like sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes can be a really good thing during this part of your cycle. Oats, whole grains. The goal here is to stabilize blood sugar and try to stabilize your energy levels. Also eating vitamin B6 rich foods like bananas, potatoes, turkey. These things hopefully are helping with cramping and bloating. And fiber-rich foods like beans, lentils, vegetables, and these are to help support digestion and reduce bloating because bloating can be pretty heavy, especially in like the later part of your luteal phase, like right before menstruation. Foods to avoid, high sodium foods like processed foods, canned soups canned food in general has a lot of sodium in it, and fast food because all of these things can lead to bloating and water retention. So like the main thing in this later part of the luteal phase is to try to eat things that will not bloat you because your body is already like prone to bloating in this part of your cycle. And again, avoiding alcohol and caffeine. That is like a quick summarized version of your cycles. Obviously, like there's a lot more that can go into that. Hopefully, now that you have heard some of the information, you can do a little bit like further research and try to optimize the different parts of your cycle. It can be really, really hard to do that. Like, this is not an easy task at all. Actually, like for me, it's quite a daunting task because I don't really know like what part of the cycle I am at any point. I've been trying to track my cycle for a while, and it's very difficult with endometriosis and with having an IUD. Very difficult. Some ways that you can track your cycle without a physical bleed are the temperature method. So this is taking your basal body temperature every morning immediately when you wake up, right before getting out of bed with a basal thermometer. So this, like, literally, you open your eyes and you take your temperature and record it. Your temperature will drop slightly before ovulation and then rise after ovulation until your period starts. So you'll need to track your temperature for at least 3 months to kind of like understand the changes, like what your regular base temperature is. And so that way, at least 3 months, so you can start noticing like subtle changes in your temperature. It's not going to change from like 96 to 100. It's going to be small, subtle changes. So that's one way. Another way is the cervical mucus method. This is checking your cervical mucus or vaginal discharge every day and then noting changes in consistency. Again, for like 3 months to try to understand your body and like what that looks like for you. As somebody with endometriosis, my cycles are normally not 28 days. Like they can be upwards of 35 days. So it if anyone and people with PCOS too, like, or any hormonal imbalance, really, like, this can be very, very hard to do. So I recommend doing maybe a combination of these things. Some other ways are the calendar method. You chart your menstrual cycle on a calendar, like when you start your physical period. And if you're not actually bleeding, then you just do all of these things on a calendar as well. An ovulation predictor kit. So you can use like an over-the-counter ovulation kit to track your cycle length and the phases. Basically, like these ovulation kits and tests will tell you when you're ovulating. Physical changes, notating down on the calendar different changes such as like breast tenderness or cramping or different changes in like bloating, energy levels, what else? If you're having like breakouts, if you different like moods that you're feeling, bowel movements, urinary frequency, these are all things that change throughout your cycle. So notating like every single day what things you're noticing. And then like again, just like keeping a record of all these things. So keep a record of any patterns you notice, like discharge changes, days that you have a higher sex drive, because typically that happens on ovulation. If you take birth control pills, like if you miss your birth control, anything like that. And then you can do this all by hand. For a while there, I had like a big printed out calendar, like a really big one, and I was just trying to keep for like 2 months. I tried to keep literally notes of all these things, my temperature in the morning, cervical mucus, when my boobs felt sore, when I felt really angry or like I was crying out of nowhere, like anything like that, I wrote it down on an actual physical calendar. But there definitely are apps and like rings, the Aura ring. Uh, there's also like it's called like the Ultra Man ring. I can put those things in the show notes as well. But there's a lot of apps and things that you can use nowadays to track these things as well. But if you don't want to use that and you want to use a physical calendar, that works as well. You just have to be very consistent about tracking things and writing everything down. And even writing down things that you don't even know if they actually matter, just write it down. Just write it down. Because then after a couple months, you can maybe start to realize what's going on. And once you have a good idea of when your cycle is and you have a good idea of when these things are starting, then you can really start to optimize, like when you do things in your life. If you want to plan a trip somewhere and you don't want to go on your period, you can plan it on those days. Or for maybe for people that have like regular cycles, but you can even do those things with endometriosis. It's just a little bit harder. I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope that you understand your cycle a little bit more. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you liked this episode, if you found it educational, informative, or you didn't, let me know. Reach out to me. You can email me at thechronicchronicles@gmail.com. You can also rate this podcast, leave a review. Any kind of feedback is totally fine with me. I would love to know how you guys are feeling, what you think, what you would like me to talk about, what you would like me to stop talking about, anything like that. I'm open to all feedback. Reach out to me. Let me know. You can also just message me on Instagram at Chronic Chronicles Pod. Thank you guys so much for listening. Until next time, stay safe, stay informed, keep advocating for yourself. It was great talking to you guys today, and we will talk again very soon. Okay, bye.